Good morning. I've tried this a few times to make a video on how to run a Mixflow dryer. So today we're starting a 2418 Sukup Mixflow. I got 4.02 software in here. I turned on the screen. This is what we got, dryer found. Hit next. So we got a good start, dryer is found. We're here on the home screen. We're going to, I didn't touch no settings since the software update. So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. So we go into settings, we hit admin settings, turn that on. We go to load settings. We go to, we're gonna be flood filled here, has an overflow valve. So we're gonna turn off the fill timer. We're gonna go to auto wet grain is set at 10, that's good. Load delays. I always put like a 15-second delay in here, actually. Yeah, put a 15-second delay in there. Auxiliaries, on delay, off delay. We're gonna let them go. Once we get running, we might put delays in there, just depends how things go. Go back, go to fan heat settings, fan shutdown delay. I'm gonna put 10 in there because I want the fans to cool the dryer down if it shuts down on a fault. We have soft starts here, so we're gonna let most everything else alone. It's a tall dryer, so we're gonna go in here and turn on the high temp option. We're gonna go low temp is on, min and max limits. We're gonna go to 240. That way I can run that plenum 4 up nice and hot. These people are only gonna run corn. So we'll let the minimum at 140. So if this was a single, yesterday I started a single phase Mixflow. With a single phase Mixflow with big fans that take 15-20 minutes to start, I go in here, I put my heat delay to 30 seconds. That's if you got VFDs on your fans. I put my heat delay to 30 seconds. I put my, plenum outer range, we always have to turn this on. We put both of these to 15. That might work at 10, but this is just the way this is the way I've always done it, so, and it works good. So our plenum minimax, plenum temperatures, we're going to, on this dryer, we got like 23% corn, 24% corn, in a 2418 Mixflow. So we're gonna go 230 on that top one. We're gonna go 220 on the third one. The bottom one, I want 175. And then this one here, I'm gonna say let's do one, delete. 195. That looks pretty good to me to make grain quality. Fans, the air switch setting. If you have a VFD, hello. If you have a VFD on the dryer, set your heat delay for 30 seconds. Air switch settings, set that delay for, increase it by 30 seconds. Okay, we have all of that stuff set now. We go back, we go to unload settings. In here, the only thing we do in here is we hit loop settings. And we go to lag rate. And we make it 300. We're starting 18 tier dryer today. So we're gonna set that to 300. We're gonna set this to 50. If this was a 6-tier dryer, or an 8-tier dryer, we would set the lag rate to 150. and the temperature gain to 50 or 60. But the lag rate, if it's a less than 10 tier dryer, I'm going to do a 150 lag rate. If it is a 10 tier or taller Mixflow, I'm going to do a 300 lag rate. This here is where you can adjust your temperature gain also. We're going to go out of there. We're going to go into grain settings. Sample time here is set for 1 minute. That needs to be set for 2 minutes. I mean, depending on your weather outside, you can be fine with 1 minute, but 2 minutes is accurate. They work very, very good. Everything else in here is good. We're set for corn, which is what we're going to run. Output moisture alarm. We can run that. That's not a bad one to use. Everything else in here is good, so we're going to turn off admin settings. We're going to go out here. We're going to go to tools. Since we updated software and didn't do anything yet, we're going to go to calibrate sensors, bushel calendar, manual calibration. And since there's a 402 with a new dryer, this manual calibration is terrible. So we're going to hit 80 in there. We're going to change 100 to 80. And then we're going to hit calculate. We're going to hit back. Whoops, missed that. So we'll go in here and connect. So here, the history log, they've changed this. It is interesting. You select the day you want to look at, and then you view for your history. So connectivity tools. We go to network repair utility. And since we recently updated software, or it's an initial startup on the dryer, we run this, we hit accept. Ready, next step. Ready, next step. Ready, next step. Assign network adapter names. Enabling network adapter, please wait. Okay, now assign dryer connection static IP. Now it says initial configuration complete. So even if I'm not hooking up internet, we don't have internet hooked up right now, but we're going to later today. But even though we don't yet, I'm going to hit set up internet. And I'm going to go through this. If you have internet, make sure you read it. Make sure you follow through the steps. Go to network adapter settings. So this is what I want. I want to see what's going on in here. So right there, this is what I'm looking for. If you look, we got a metric of 35 that's red. That's a problem. That's going to cause a problem down the road. So we're going to just tap that. And it will fix itself. And it will prevent issues in the future. See, the metric changed to 1. Everything's green or white on there, because if you read the directions, it'll tell you how to fix the stuff in here. Go to network adapter 2. We do not have internet hooked up, so we're good to go. So now, reset. Okay, now we're going to go back in here to tools. And we have the graphs. Bushel counter, we'll look at graphs once we're running. System tools, this is where you look to system information, see what for software you have, or set your time and date. Hit apply and back out. Diagnostics tools, shutdown tools that we can get to elsewhere also. Utility tools. Yeah, we don't mess with that today. Air system. If you have an air system, wow, we hit the wrong thing there. So, oops. Tools, air system. So we would turn both of these on if we had an air system. And then we'd need to go in here and do our settings. But we don't have an air system on this big of a dryer. So update tools, we're going to turn on admin. And we hit update tools. And right here, it says Windows updates enabled. So to keep it from causing problems down the road, you disable Windows updates. Now the screen goes through a user reset. Now when it powers back up, the Windows updates are not disabled yet. We go in here, update tools. Right here it says Windows updates disabled. That did not take effect. To make that take effect, we need to shut down the QuadraTouch. Okay, now it's powered off. Everything's shut down. We wait a few seconds just to make sure the whole system is shut down, powered off. And then we go to the switch right here and we toggle the switch. So now you see the screen isn't centered on the screen. The writing isn't centered on the screen. Just give it a minute. It's going to fix itself. And there's a yellow exclamation point in the start button, meaning we're not talking to the dryer. So now we're talking to the dryer. Answer. Hello. Okay, I'm going to pull the cover off here. We've got to make some adjustments in there. I'm going to loosen up the U-bolts on this vapor coil and make some adjustments there. Pressure regulator, make adjustments there. We're going to start at the top of the dryer, work our way down. So as you see here, I pull these out about 8 inches from the U-bolt to the T, push them as far as possible. So 2418. I thread the regulator in. This is in cold country though. So the other thing I do is look at the mod valve. This year they've been off pretty bad. But if you look at the top of that mod valve, I take that, see how where that line is lined up. So I take that and I turn that so it's lined up the center of the groove to the edge of this hole. That's going to get you right about where you need to be for calibration. You probably don't have to do any adjustments if you do a calibration then, if you line up that with the edge of this hole. Another thing you need to check is air switch. They're sometimes hooked up wrong. And if you look in here, you'll see the air line is hooked to the wrong side. So we got to hook that to the right side. That way that works correctly. Now we need to go up the back and check the plenums, clean them, because this dryer is full of dry grain. Cooling chamber's all dusty from filling with dry corn, but that's fine. That is not a problem. When you fill with dry corn, it's even more important to sweep out. There's a pretty mega layer of dust in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sweep the plenums out, and then we'll be ready to start drying. Okay. Cleaned out all the plenums, swept them out. Now we're ready to fire it up. Make sure the fans are turning the right way. And then we'll fire it up and start drying corn. We're going to hit start. We're going to go to manual operation. And then hit the sender here. We're going to hit fan. Go here. 24 volt signals, fan 1. We're all set there. So we go back. We just for the dumb of it, let's kick that burner on and see what she does. Must be I remembered to open the louvers. Oh, the gas is off. That's gonna be a problem. Right here. Probably too late. Yep, flame 1 not detected. Fault status, reset. So now that fan's gonna run a cool down for 10 minutes. And we don't want it to, so we hit all systems immediate off. Now that fan's still spinning and we want to keep testing. So we will go to fan 2 and we'll turn heat 2 on right away. So let's try the next one. See what we got there. Let's turn the heater on there, just see what she does. Huh, air switch. All systems immediately off. Now we're going to turn that on. We're going to go here. So we turn fan 3 on. We go to diagnostics, 24 volt, fan 3. We get a fan confirmation, but we're not getting an air switch confirmation. So we're going to run up there and we're going to look at the air switch and see if we can see a problem. Well, this is interesting. Fan is running. And it's running the right direction. Top is going towards the dryer. So I'm gonna have a rant also. These gates are stupid and just stupid beyond stupid. Why would they not be hinged over there and open the way you want to walk? I'll calm down now. Rant over. So happy day. The air switch is on. Now we're gonna go back here. We're gonna turn the heater on and we're gonna see what she does. Do we get fire? Ah, we got fire. Look at the temperature go up. Now we'll shut that off. We'll turn fan 4 on. We'll go to our diagnostics. 24 volt signals, fan 4. We got a confirmation. And we got no air switch. Okay, looks like I could go up and mess with that air switch also. That would tend to cause a problem. Fan turning the wrong direction. Okay, we need to go back, edit, turn these 2 off because we need to reverse the direction of 4. So start, manual operation, here. Fan 4, go in here to our diagnostics, 24 volt signals, fan 4. Hey, we got a confirmation. Let's turn the heater on and see what she does. Hey, look at that, the burner took off. And it seems to be doing about what it's supposed to do. Just scooting right up, but not going crazy. Cut off, close edit. We're gonna hit reset. And then we're gonna hit start, assisted start. Do not run fans during initial fill on Mixflows. So we just hit accept. Dryer's already full, so we hit dryer full, proceed. So if you were starting with a dryer of wet grain, you would hit initial dry and go through those steps. But since I'm full of dry grain, I just want to find out how fast to run. So I'm going to hit continuous flow. I'm going to enable everything. And, you know, we're going to move that down to 185. We're going to move this to 210. It's pretty nice. That's going to make some really nice corn. And our desired output moisture, I always start at 15. So our incoming moisture, we're going to say is 24, 25. Yeah, it's about 23% actually coming in, but I punch in 2% high because I don't want wet grain. I'd rather have too dry a grain and then wet it up with the auto than end up with 17% grain that's just too wet for the dry bin, but will screw up the wet bin. So 50 degrees, yeah, it's probably, yep, that's 50 degrees is good. It's like 45 outside. So we hit next step. So here it says 36.9% unload speed. So 37% unload speed. So we are not going to go through this because we have a dryer full of dry corn. So all we did here was we learned what our unload speed needs to be. 36.9%. But I'm going to start at 36% because, like I said, I like dry corn. When I go to, so now we're going to go to manual operation. And we're going to go in here. And we're going to hit close edit. We're going to start at 10%. The unload speed here, we're going to start at 10% just to run it and make sure everything works right. And then once we got grain going to the right bin, then we'll worry about putting it to 36 where it says. Okay, so I verified the corn was going in the bin that it's set to. And that's all running the way it's supposed to be working. So now I'm going to set this unload speed up to 36%. And once that drops off and it refills with wet corn, then I'll start burner 4. I am now hooked up my user fault into my automation panel. So that way if this panel throws a fault, it will tell my dryer. So we're going to go in here to settings, configure user fault, and we're going to say Multico automation fault. That way we know the Multico automation panel has a fault. So that should work. Once it drops off this full switch, the full switches, we're going to, the load should start. And now we just wait for the grain to drop off of there. While I'm waiting, I'm going to grab a 9/16 wrench and I'm going to head outside and check my flow gates. This year, the flow gates have been varying a lot. If you look, half of the jam nuts are not tight. So you've got to, once you start unloading, you've got to go and adjust your flow gates, get them all the same. Set them according to factory settings. If you want to know how I set them, contact me. But
set them according to factory settings. Different dryers are going to be slightly different, and at different parts of the dryer, they're going to be different. Mixflows are pretty simple.
Okay, we got our flow gate set. We're doing our first fill. So we're gonna take a little walk over to the bin and look at where the corn's going in.
Okay, it is a 72-foot bin. Ah, look at that. I love them paddle sweeps. They're a beautiful thing. It's one of them Sukup paddle sweeps. Been there a few years.
We're gonna turn this heater on and let it warm up, and then I'm gonna go up top. I'm gonna go up top and close the little door on the back of the plenum. I had the little door open so dust could blow out. I'm gonna close the little door. I'm gonna check to make sure our fill switches are working correctly, and just make sure make sure the vapor over temp isn't getting too hot or anything crazy like that. So the vapor coil up there, maybe do some adjusting on that. So settings, load settings, fill switch. We have on delay, 1, off delay. We're gonna put 25 seconds. That way it unloads a little more before we start filling grain. So that should work. We're dumping corn into it. And that is our timers, status of the different auxiliaries. There at the timer button goes there. And not sure, but I'm thinking we're going to turn on 3. So that's coming up to temp. Okay, so while the dryer is running here, going around doing some testing, and my voltage is running like 23.5. So what I do in that case, I always like to see on a dryer this size, 2418 Mixflow, I like to see 26 volts. So I come down here and I turn that screw up a little bit, get me 26 volts, makes me feel better. The next thing I do is, right here we have our gate motors. On A1, we have 22A, I believe it is, a blue wire to activate the gate motors. I put a jumper wire from A1 here to 66. And then I remove the red wire on the bottom, because if you put a jumper wire from the actuator relays, the A1, the 24 volt positive, to 66, and then remove this red wire, it'll just eliminate a lot of headaches, because that proc switch on the gate sometimes don't read right, and if we just do this, it'll always think the proc reads right. And then the way to know if your moisture sensor isn't working right is if you get a 0 moisture. If your moisture drops to 0 while unloading, then you know your gate isn't working correctly. Okay, I put that wire in there. You can see there's a second blue wire right here, and then it comes into the 66 right here. And then I removed the red wire from the 66 and tied it off. So that should be all set. I went up, grabbed some corn in the dryer on the side, and we're almost down to the bottom of this plenum. So I started the next burner to Get that hot, that way as that wet corn comes down through, it gets heated right away and dried.
So while you're waiting for it to come into line, you eliminate this terminal block and put wire nuts on. The temp sensors are reading resistance, and spring connections are terrible for reading resistance. We want the wires twisted together and crimped, or twisted together with a wire nut on, good and tight. That way we get accurate readings. I don't care what for controls you have on your dryer. If you're not giving them good information, they're not going to work worth a crap. So, if you're not giving them good information, they're going to give you bad results.
We're rolling along. I started the bottom burner and we got that rolling along. We got a 230, 220, 195, 175, I believe that bottom one's set at. Cooking along, everything seems good. If you had started with wet corn, you'd be doing your stabilization yet with the timer here, going down through your stabilization. But since we started with dry corn, I pretty much guessed and went up and checked the side of the dryer to see where the corn was, where I should start the burners. So we're rolling along in manual. Once I am certain that our dryer is stable and we have made a full pass, then we're going to put it in auto. But our temperature is about right, but we still have some dry corn in the bottom plenum range. So we want to work that through before we go to auto. So for now, we're just rolling along. This temperature is probably going to get up a little bit warm because the chart said to run this at 35%, but I'm running at 30%. So this temperature is probably going to get up a little warm, but that's all right. We're gonna just keep let it moving through. The biggest thing with a dryer like this is have patience. If you get in a rush, you get frustrated.
I did my preliminary adjustments on the vapor coils and mod valves and stuff. Just now I'm gonna go up and check the vaporizers, make sure they're not too hot.
Yeah, I didn't show you some of the things I did. My column temp was running too high. I looked at this and I said, we're gonna want like 100 degrees. We're up at 113, we're kinda high. I'm gonna have to speed my unload up, or I'm gonna have to lower my plenum temperatures depending on how fast the customer can harvest corn. So I contacted the customer, said, how many bushel a day do you want to run through the dryer? The customer said 24,000 a day. So we want to be real close to 1,000 bushel an hour. So I did some math to figure out my unload speed according to the chart. So it's this chart right here. It's to tell you what unload speed for what plenum temp for what moisture. So it's a handy chart. You really should have the dryer. The controls will calculate it for you, but it's handy to have that chart to reference. So I looked at this, and no matter how I calculated, I couldn't get my plenums down low enough without having the bottom two running 160. And to be running that low, it starts getting inefficient. So I did some math and I turned off my plenum 2. So I got my 4 at 220, my 3 at 210. I got plenum 2 turned off, and then 1 at 170. That's gonna run real efficient that way. And my 170 here on the bottom, that's gonna make real good quality grain. And we got steep time where the 2 is, so that's gonna run pretty efficient. So now I was able to drop my unload speed to 21%, get my unload rate at 984, and we're not gonna know exactly, we may end up adjusting them temps a little bit yet, once we put it in automatic. But for now, we're rolling along. Yeah, we got a 116. It's a little hot, but it's life. I don't get worried about a 116 grain temp right away. We'll let it keep rolling, and I'll check back with you in a little while once we got a full pass through and know what we're doing. So I haven't checked in a bit. We're at, change this. We are at 5:37 in the evening, and we're running a temperature average column of 107. Our moisture has come up to 15.4, a little wetter than I want. We'll dry that up in a bit. We are running number 2 off. And if we go in here to graphs, column temp, our column temp has been, I'm gonna say pretty steady on 105 for a little over an hour. Our moisture was running too low, come up. We're a little bit on the wet side, but we're nothing to get stressed out about. So unload speed. We've been running 2 hours at that set point, so I believe I might put it in automatic soon. Go to moisture. It's good. Grain temperature. We're doing a lot of goofing around there, but looks pretty good overall. So I think we're good on that moisture. I believe I'm gonna put it in auto. The first startup like this is, there's no rush to get into auto. You wanna know what you got going on before you go in auto. Because this number is gonna be a little bit of a guessing game to know where we're at. Once we put it in auto, we're not gonna be sure where we're at. So I'm just gonna go in here and check some things first, just to make sure I know what I'm looking at. So right there, we were at 106. Right there, 108. Right there, 112. Right there, 103. So between 103 and 112, halfway, that's 9, so 4.5, so 7.5, so 107.5. Okay. We're gonna go back. We're gonna go back here. It's actually don't look bad. We got a little bit of a high spike, I think, because of when I shut that burner off. So we're gonna go to automatic. We're gonna go to automatic. 15 is about our goal. We're gonna go here and say, give me a 106. Column temperature. I'd rather start a little high and then back it off. That's where we're gonna go now. So start automatic. Now our control setting, change to column temperature. Let's go, I'm gonna go in here and just, there's things that are very important that they're running correctly. And we have a 300 and a 50. Believe everything's good there. I didn't actually check that moisture. I'm trusting that moisture sensor. I better go get a sample. We don't know 100% what that is. I'm gonna get a sample. Okay, so I was trusting the moisture sensor running along at about 15.2. So I went and took some corn samples. So if we look here, we go down to the history. We want to read the history. So I took 2 samples out of the south side, and the one was 14.6 and the other one was 14.5. 2 out of the north side, one was 15 and one was 15.1. So we're running, we got the top here, 14.5, 14.6, 15.1. So we're running 14.8, about 14.8 on moisture. Yeah, an average would be 14.8. So we, the dryer saying 15, the moisture sensor saying 14.8, we're fine. Now if you look, our moisture is climbing. So I'm gonna trust that though, because my 4 average samples matched what this said. I got a phone call in there, so it's been a few minutes since I did my sample. So we're averaging 15.4. I got it in automatic. We want to load delay, off delay. 20 seconds. 20 seconds? Let's go 30 seconds on the off delay. That way we definitely getting that dryer full each fill up. There. Now we're gonna wait a bit. We're not in a bad spot with this moisture at 15.8, 15.5 with the last sample 15.8. So our average of 15.5 is pretty accurate. We're not in a bad spot. We're just a little on the wet side. But since I made all the plenum changes, like changed all this stuff, I'm not sure where we're at. So I'm kind of shooting in the dark. So I'm gonna just kind of sit tight and see what happens. So we're gonna have to wait a while to get this thing stable because of all the changes I made to get this unload rate from 1,500 down to 1,000. That way we can keep it running 24 hours a day. Okay, everything's working good here. I didn't check in for a couple hours. We got a 14% moisture coming out, a little drier than we need to, but it's very stable. Graphs menu, column temp, we've been doing really well. It's going up a little bit there, but it's gonna bring it down into place. Moisture has been running a little below our goal. So, but we're starting to bring that up there a little bit. We're slowly working that up. And unload speed. Okay, so unload speed is coming up. We're up to 20%, so that's a good deal. So I'm gonna say the dryer's stable, very stable. One thing with these larger dryers that is really hard to understand. So I started this dryer at 1 o'clock about, I think it was around 1 o'clock when I started unloading. And this is 11 o'clock at night and I'm ready to go to bed. And I think this thing's trustworthy to let go through the night. If you look here, our column temp's up a little bit. Our speed's climbing, that's gonna come down in line. Our 105 is gonna be real close to what we need. And just a reminder where our plenums are running at. So patience is a major thing with these dryers. You can start a 2418 or a 3217 in a day, but it is a full day. It is not for the faint of heart to conquer a project like this. And if you're going to get it to where your customer is happy with the way his dryer runs, you are going to spend the time and figure out how to make that dryer purr along. And if we look here, we want a stable speed. So if you want to bring it into line, and in the first running here, we're not where I want to be because it's the first startup. Our dryer is stable. We are still bringing it into where we actually want it, but we're in a reasonable spot. We can slowly fine tune our column temp setting and get it to where it needs to be. That takes some time. The first startup, we're running 10 hours. We're not exactly where we want to be. But after we get through this first startup, Then we're gonna know where this needs to be. And the next time we start this dryer, we're gonna be looking at 5 hours to get this dryer running and stable. So getting in a rush when starting a dryer like this, like, well, 3 hours in, we got a full pass, it should be stable. Sorry, it's not gonna be running full tilt, everything where it needs to be for close to 5 hours on a restart. So if you're gonna treat your farmers right and start their dryers and show them how to run them, you need at least a day on site. But the thing is, you can't go home halfway through. Once you start, you gotta stay until it's running. The first 3217 Mixflow I started, I was on site for 36 hours straight. That is how you need to do it if you want to learn how to run these. Now, I do an 18 tier in 10 hours. 12 hours, that's pretty good. So I'm gonna say, we're gonna bump this up 1 degree. Oh no, delete 104. There. No, our temperature is running 110 right now. Yeah, no, we're gonna run that at 104. That'll be fine there. 104. Graphs, moisture. Yeah, we've been an hour. So yeah, that looks good. So this dryer run along just over 1,000 bushel an hour. Yeah. So this is 1155, and I mean the dryer is stable. It's just a matter of bringing this into line where we want it for moisture. So I think I'm gonna sign off and say that it's good to go. But just as a reminder, when you're starting a dryer this size, don't be in a rush. It's a 12 hours to stabilize it the first time. So thanks for watching.